It's interesting that you brought that up because I was recently back in Canada and I noticed that at restaurants that suddenly on the table there are these QR codes, and some restaurants won't even give you a menu anymore. It's interesting that you brought that up because I was recently back in Canada and I noticed that at restaurants that suddenly on the table there are these QR codes, and some restaurants won't give you a menu anymore. They just expect you to open the menu on your phone with the QR code. They just expect you to open the menu on your phone with the QR code. Yeah, I didn't love that. It felt a little impersonal to me. 난 그거 별로 마음에 안 들었어. I didn't love that. It felt a little impersonal. 되게 인간미가 없다고 생각했어. Impersonal to me. It felt a little impersonal to me. Like, it's nicer for the server to come and greet you and say hello and give you the menu. And also, you've got a very good point there that it kind of forces you to take your phone out and deal with your phone right from the start, right? Also, you've got a very good point there. 좋은 지적인 것 같아. You've got a very good point there that it kind of forces, 강요하지, you to take your phone out, 핸드폰을 꺼내게 해서 to phone out and deal with your phone 처리하게 deal with your phone right from the start. 처음부터 내가 알아서 처리하게 한다. Right? So if everybody in your party is taking out their phones and all looking at the menu, so if everybody in your party is taking out their phones and all looking at the menu, Well, then you're not really having a social interaction with each other. 그러면 you're not really having a social interaction with each other. So I can see how that could be handy. 얼마나 편한지는 알겠어. From the restaurant's perspective. 그 레스토랑의 입장에선 그게 얼마나 편한지는 알겠는데, but from my perspective, 내가 보기에는 from my perspective, 내가 보기에는 it's not that great. 그렇게 좋은 것 같지는 않아. It's not that great. And in general, 일반적으로, I think that's just a really rude thing to do is, 정말 무례한 건, is to be glued to your phone. 핸드폰에 열중한 거야. 이게 뚝 달라붙어 열중한 거. To be glued to your phone while you are dining with someone else. So I always try as best as I can not to look at my phone. I always, 항상 노력해. Try as best as I can. 내가 할 수 있는 최선을 다해서 노력해. I always try as best as I can. 할 수 있는 거 이렇게. I always try as best as I can. 가능하면 not to look at my phone. 핸드폰 안 보려고 노력해. I'm not perfect about that. 완벽하진 않은데 항상 그런 건 아닌데. I'm not perfect about that. And especially when your phone in your pocket and you feel it vibrate. 특히 when your phone is in your pocket and you feel it vibrate. 진동이 오는 걸 느끼면
phone. I am not perfect about that, especially when your phone's in your pocket and you feel it vibrate. When your phone's in your pocket and you feel
pocket in your phone's your pocket
in your pocket and you feel
pocket pocket이네. pocket. When your phone's in your pocket and you feel it vibrate.
You feel it vibrate and
You feel it vibrate.
You feel it vibrate, and you got to
Vibrate. You feel it vibrate, and you've got a new message. It's really tempting. But yeah, as much as I can. I try to leave my phone away. 할 수 있는 as much as I can. I try to leave my phone away. 멀리 두려고 해. Leave my phone away from the table. From the table. So it's not bothering me. I usually just put my phone in the bedroom or something while I'm eating dinner so that I can have a conversation with my wife. It's like a really good time to connect. It's like a really good time to connect and to speak with each other is when we are eating dinner or lunch together.
got a new message. Like, it's really tempting, but yeah, as much as I can, I try to leave my phone away from the table, so it's not bothering me. And when I eat at home, I usually just put my phone in
like
the bedroom
in the
or something
bedroom
while
or
I'm eating
something
dinner,
while
so
I'm
that I
eating
can
dinner so that I
have a
can
conversation with
have
my
a
wife. It's like a
conversation with
really
my
good time
wife.
to connect and to speak
It's
with
really a
each
good
other
time
is
to
when
connect
we're
and to
eating
speak
dinner
each other
or lunch together. So I
together.
try my best
So
not to
try
be
best
one of those
not to.
people that
So I try my best. 최선을 다해 not to be one of those people. 그런 사람이 안 되려고. That just eats and looks at their phone the whole time. I try my best not to be one of those persons. I try my best not to be the one of those people that just eats and looks at their phone the whole time. Yeah, Olivier and I are not so good at keeping our phones away during dinner at home. Olivier and I are not so good at keeping our phones away during dinner at home. Sometimes it's hanging out a little bit, but usually it's in the other room. Sometimes it's hanging out a little bit. But usually it's in the other room, at least. But sometimes it isn't. Sometimes it is on the table near us, and it's like, oh, don't look at it, you know? So I hear you. But we usually watch a show like it's the only time 유일한 시간이야. It's the only time 우리가 본방하는 유일한 시간이야. It's the only time we really watch TV. It's the only time we really It's the only time we really watch TV is when we eat.
Yeah, Olivia and I are not so good at keeping our phones away during dinner at home. Sometimes it's hanging out a little bit. But usually it's in the other room, at least. But sometimes it isn't. Sometimes it is on the table near us, and don't look at it.
Don't look at it, you know.
So I hear you. But we usually watch a show. Like it's the only time we really watch TV. Is when we eat. Which I realize is also just another.
Which I realize is also just another kind of screen. And in a way, yes.
Kind of screen. And in a way, yes, we're connecting because we're both like laughing.
And in a way, yes, we're connecting because we're both like laughing or looking at each other and giggling about the show or whatever.
Laughing or looking at each other and giggling about the show or whatever.
Giggling about the show or whatever.
We're not talking about maybe a topic we need to talk about.
But we're not talking about maybe a topic we need to talk about. We're not talking about a topic we need to talk about, like
a project we're working on, or a plan we want to put in action together. So yeah, it's not the best.
It's not the best.
That habit is not a good table manner habit.
That habit is not a good table manner habit.
I will say that my wife and I also started doing that actually pretty recently. We were really good.
I will say that my wife and I also started doing that actually pretty recently. I will say that my wife and I also started doing that actually pretty recently. We were really good for a long time about having zero technology at the table.
Really good for a long time about having zero technology at the table.
We were really good for a long time about having a zero technology at the table. We were really good for a long time. 동안 되게 잘했었어. We were really good for a long time about having zero technology at the table, but
the iPad has somehow sneaked its way to the table, and we were like,
but the iPad has somehow sneaked its way to the table. 어느새 와 있다. But the iPad has somehow sneaked its way to the table. 어느새 테이블에 와 있어. And we are like, should we watch a show? And then we started. We don't do that all the time.
Somehow sneaked its way to the table, and we were like, should we watch a show? And then we started. Yeah. But we don't do that all the time, but.
버스 들어갔는데. But we don't do that all the time, but yeah. From time to time we do eat, and actually every Thursday.
Yeah, from time to time we do eat, and actually every Thursday we do.
Yeah, from time to time we do eat, and actually every Thursday.
Do that to be specific, because there's one show.
We do that to be specific. 정확히 말하면은 목요일마다 그래. Actually every Thursday we do that to be specific.
Specific, because there's one show that we like to watch together.
Because there's one show that we'd like to watch together.
Comes out on Wednesday night, so we watch it at dinner every Thursday.
To be specific, because there's one show. 좋아하는 게 하나 있거든. There's one show that we'd like to watch together.
Okay.
Comes out on Wednesday night. Because there's one show that we'd like to watch together. Comes out on Wednesday night. And so we watch it at dinner every Thursday.
At least once a week we do that, and yeah, it's fun.
Yeah,
I can't say that.
So at least once a week we do that. At least once a week we do that. So at least once a week we do that. Yeah, it's fun. I can't say there's anything wrong with it.
Say there's anything wrong with it.
I can't say there's anything wrong with it. Suzanne, I got one question here for you.
Suzanne, I got one question here for you before we wrap up. And I don't know if you'll have an answer for this or not,
and I don't know if you will have an answer for this or not.
Or if you want to share your answer about this question or not. The question is, have you ever been in a situation where someone's table manners were so bad that it affected your enjoyment of the meal?
But the question is, have you ever been in a situation where someone's table manners were so bad that it affected your enjoyment of the meal?
Yeah. I would say there's two things that come to mind. One was
yeah, I would say there's two things that come to mind. I would say There's two things. 두 개가 있어. I would say there's two things that come to mind. 생각이 나는 게 두 개가 있어. Come to mind. One was when I was on an airplane. So
when I was on an airplane, so that's kind of a little bit difficult because you're flying, you're eating out of
flying, you're eating out of these little containers.
It's not ideal to begin with.
It's not ideal to begin with. One was when I was on an airplane, so that's kind of a little bit difficult because you're flying, you're eating out of these little containers. It's not ideal to begin with. You're in a tight space.
You're in a tight space. But one time I was sitting...
Tight space. But one time I was sitting in the middle seat.
In the middle seat, Olivier
I was sitting in the middle seat. Olivier was
on the end, and there was a gentleman next to me. And
there was a gentleman next to me.
And he was talking to his friend across the aisle, and
he was talking to his friends across the aisle.
Across the aisle, and he was
across the aisle, and he was putting his face literally over my food.
Putting his face literally over my food. Like just talking across me and Olivier to his friend on the other side of the aisle. And didn't care. I was like, I'm eating here.
I'm eating here. And he was talking to his friends across the aisle. And he was putting his face literally over my food, like just talking across me and Olivier to his friends on the other side of the aisle, and didn't care that I was like, I'm eating here. Yeah.
Excuse me, like personal space.
Personal space. Excuse me, like personal space.
So that was tough because
So that was tough because
kind of trapped. It's not
you're kind of trapped.
Like you can call the waitress over or move to another table.
It's not like you can call the waitress over or move to another table.
It was like I'm stuck.
Yeah, okay, you got no outs in that situation.
Yeah, you got no outs in the situation. You got no outs in that situation. You just sort of
have to deal with it.
Yeah.
You just sort of have to deal with it.
And so I had to just say,
yeah, you just sort of have to deal with it.
Excuse me, sir.
Excuse me, sir. Like, can you please stop? Or you can
switch seats with him if you want.
You can switch seats with him if you want to speak.
Speak with your friend. Change your seat. We'd be happy.
You can change your seat. We'd be happy to switch.
To switch, you know.
We'd be happy to switch. You know?
It was quite rude.
It was quite rude.
So that was one, and another one was we were hosting friends at the time.
So that was one, and another one was we were hosting friends at the time. There was one. 그게 하나였고, and another one was we were hosting friends at the time.
Needless to say, they're not really friends of ours anymore.
Needless to say, they're not really friends of ours anymore. 말할 필요는 없는데, needless to say, they are not really friends of ours anymore. But at the time, 그때는
But at the time,
at the time, 그때는 we had friends over for dinner.
Had friends over for dinner.
We had friends over for dinner. A few couples.
And one of the guys, between dinner and dessert, put his foot
up on the table.
His bare foot just up on the table.
On the kitchen table?
On the
dining
kitchen
table.
Dining table. On the dining table. Yeah.
Yeah, so we only have like one large dining table, and we were all...
Yeah, so we only have like one large dining table, and we were
sitting around the table. And we're digesting between dinner and dessert.
And we're digesting between dinner and dessert.
And he just puts his foot.
And he just put his foot.
Say like as if it was his house.
I was gonna say like as if it was his house.
But to be honest, I wouldn't do that in my own house.
I wouldn't do that in my own house.
It was almost like he was alone watching Netflix, and
it was almost like he was alone watching Netflix.
He just puts his foot on the table.
And he just put his foot on the table.
Wow. I was like, oh my gosh, you're at somebody's house who just...
Oh my gosh, you're at somebody's house who's just cooked you.
We're waiting for dessert.
Cooked you dinner. You're waiting for dessert.
What are you doing?
What are you
nobody
doing?
wants to smell your feet.
Like nobody wants to smell your feet.
That is really interesting, because I feel like that is just a no-no probably everywhere.
That's really interesting, because I feel like that is just a no-no probably everywhere. That's like
a globally kind of accepted thing that you want to try and keep the kitchen table, the dining table as clean as possible. And
it's like a globally kind of accepted thing that you want to try and keep the kitchen table, the dining table,
after you're walking around, and then
as clean as possible. And after you're walking around,
putting your feet on the table
putting your feet on the table is like
wow. How did your guests react?
How did your guest react? 어떻게 반응했어? 걔한테 반응이 어땠어? How did your guest react? 반응을 어떻게 했어?
I don't know.
I mean,
his girlfriend.
Well,
now it's his wife.
Seemed
to be okay with it.
And then
there were two other people there that kind of looked.
Two other people there that kind of looked around at me.
But everyone knew each other well.
But everyone knew each other well.
So I don't know if they were like, that's just him. Maybe they know that that's his personality. But for me, I was really offended. So I don't know. I don't know if they were like, 이런 거 같았어. Well, that's just him. 딱 제 답네. That's just him. You know,
maybe they know that's his personality. 성격이란 거. But for me, I was really offended. 나 진짜 정말 기분 나빴어. I was really offended. 이상하더라. 불쾌하더라. Yeah, I would be mortified.
Yeah, I would be mortified in
mortified. Yeah, I would be mortified in that situation. 나라면 정말 당황했을 것 같아. I would be mortified. I would be mortified in that situation. 그 상황에서 엄청 당황했을 것 같아. Mortified. I don't know how I would react.
That situation, I don't know how I would react. That's wild.
That's wild.
That's a much more extreme story than I was expecting to hear.
That's a much more extreme story that I was expecting to hear.
But it made me laugh, so I have to thank you for that.
But it made me laugh, so I have to thank you for that.
Yeah. I won't mention his name in case he's listening.
I won't mention his name in case he's listening.
Yeah. We've decided to keep the conversation going for just a little bit longer here for all of our members.
We've decided to keep the conversation going for just a little bit longer here for all of our members.
As a way to say thanks to all of you for supporting us.
Just as a way to say thanks to all of you for supporting us.
So Suzanne, I've prepared 3 rapid fire style questions for us to talk about here that are all related to table manners.
So Suzanne, I've prepared 3 rapid fire style questions for us to talk about here that are all related to table manners.
And the first question, Suzanne, is have you ever been in a situation where maybe it's like a fancy dinner at a restaurant and they give you lots of different cutlery or utensils and you're not sure about how to use them or which one to use or in which order to use them? Have you ever run?
And the first question the first question, Suzanne, is have you ever been in a situation where maybe it's like a fancy dinner at a restaurant and they give you lots of different cutlery or utensils and you're not sure about how to use them or which one to use or in which order to use them?
In which order to use them?
In which order to use them? Have you ever run into that situation? Have you ever run into that situation? Have you ever run into that situation?
Have you ever run into that situation?
For the most part, the basic 2 forks, spoon, knife, and like little spoon on top.
For the most part, the basic 2 forks, spoon, knife, and like little spoon on top.
That I can pretty much figure out.
What's that I can pretty much figure out?
I do recall like a small fork that's like really tiny.
I do recall Like a small fork that's like really tiny.
That I was like, I don't know what this is for.
I don't know what this is for.
I don't think I ever learned what it was for.
I don't think I ever learned what it was for. Recall? Recall. Recall.
I don't know where I was.
I don't know where I was.
It might have even been at a hotel.
It might have even been at a hotel.
Like at a British-inspired high tea. And there was a small fork.
And there was a small fork.
May have been for a jam. I honestly don't know. I never used it.
It may have been for a jam. I honestly don't know. I never used it.
Sat there, and
I just sat there.
Kind of just looked around and was like.
And I kind of just looked around and was like,
oh well. I guess I'll just ignore it.
I guess I'll just ignore it.
Not recently.
Not recently.
But up until
maybe 3 or 4 years
ago.
But up until like maybe 3 or 4 years ago. Up until like maybe 3 or 4 years ago was never that big of a seafood person.
That's changed. I've gotten into seafood in a big way over the last 4 or 5 years.
That's changed because I've gotten into seafood in a big way over the last 4 or 5 years.
But before that, I wasn't. And I remember one of the first times that.
But before that, I wasn't. And I remember one of the first times that
I ate lobster. I didn't really understand what all the utensils were for.
I didn't really understand what all the utensils were for.
Like, I had it here in Korea, and I think.
Like, I had it here in Korea, and I think.
Actually, I've never had lobster outside of Korea, so I don't.
And actually, I've never had lobster outside of Korea, so.
I don't know if it's the same in North America, but.
I don't know if it's the same in North America.
They gave me scissors, and they gave me this big stick, like this big.
But they gave me scissors, and they gave me big stick.
Poking stick.
I
had to ask my wife for help. I was like.
I had to ask my wife for help.
What am I supposed to do with these scissors and this poking stick? But.
I was like, what am I supposed to do with the scissors and this poking stick?
Actually, it seemed like a really efficient way to eat the lobster. Like, you just.
And actually, it seemed like a really efficient way to eat the lobster. Like,
use the scissors to cut the shell, and then there's the.
You just use the scissors to cut the shell and.
The stick so that you can poke the lobster meat out of the shell, but that.
And then. There's this stick so that you can poke the lobster meat out of the shell.
That was a situation where I really felt, to use another seafood kind of metaphor here, like a.
But that was a situation where I really felt, to use another seafood kind of metaphor here.
fish out of water. I didn't know what to
like a fish out of water. I didn't know what to do, and
I had to ask my wife to show me the ropes because I just didn't
I have
get
a question. When we were talking about messy eater,
and I have a question when we are talking about messy eater.
Did you wear a lobster bib?
Did you wear a lobster bib?
I think I did.
It's
really common also.
Actually, it's really common also here in Korea, but for many restaurants to give you like a little bib.
Because I am one of those people who tend to drop food more often than I would like.
Because I am one of those people who tend to drop food more often than I would like.
I pretty much always wear the bib just to be safe.
I pretty much always wear the bib just to be safe.
Yeah, that's...
I pretty much always wear the bib just to be safe.
Great.
Okay, rapid fire question number 2. Do you think it...
Rapid fire question number...
think it's necessary to have good table manners in informal settings, such as at...
Okay, rapid fire question number 2. Do you think it's necessary to have good table manners in informal settings? In informal settings, such as at home with family or
at home with close friends.
Is it okay to drop the formality a little bit and just to go wild? Okay, to drop the formality. Drop the formality.
The formality a little bit and just go
formality a little bit and just go wild.
Or should you have good table manners all the time?
Or should you have good table manners all the time?
I think you can really relax your table manners at home.
I think you can really relax your table manners at home. Relax.
And not be so formal. But I think
And not be so formal. 그렇게 격식을 차릴 필요는 없다. 그냥.
It could also be important to have a comfortability with maybe.
And I think it could also be important to have a comfortability.
The roommates you live with, or maybe.
With maybe the roommates you live with, or maybe. 아이고.
Your partner or friends, so that you aren't in any way. Well, let's put it this way. You're not like putting.
Well, let's put it this way. You're not like
your foot up on the table, right? You're not offending anyone.
You're not offending anyone.
Kind of maybe have the same level of comfortability and can enjoy a meal together without feeling.
can enjoy a meal together without
feeling like you have to be formal, or that you feel grossed out or offended. So I think it's good to kind of be yourself in those situations. That's kind of how I live by, I guess.
How I live by, I guess.